Good day, friends. Today, my talk is about estimation of rainfall from satellites and to give an appreciation of how far they represent the realities. Obviously, there are many advantages from satellite observations, however, with attendant limitations. Anyone would have realized that rainfall is a highly variable parameter, both in space and time. Unlike other meteorological and atmospheric parameters like wind, temperature, humidity, pressure, etc., which vary more smoothly, but rainfall, suddenly there is a change of intensity of rainfall, or there is rainfall and no rainfall type of situations. The importance and need of reliable rainfall observations at close time and space scales need no emphasis. Just to recapitulate, on national scale, rainfall is a very important parameter for management of water resources, power production, agricultural operations, groundwater recharge, drinking water needs, etc. Now it is needed at very close intervals also for managing flash floods, landslides, etc. We have had some occasions of this nature also recently. Before proceeding further, let me try to just recapitulate the major weather systems of India producing copious rains. The first and foremost is the southwest monsoon system, which prevails over most of India between July and September, 4 months. And then the northeast monsoon, which is more prevalent over Tamil Nadu and the southern part of India, that is during October, November, December. It is also associated with cyclones. Then western disturbances during the winter times in the northern part of India. The southwest monsoon rainfall is the most stable system, and it gives about 80% of the total annual rainfall over India. And its performance has great repercussions in Indian economy. The measurement of rainfall are done by various methods. One is what is called in situ, that is, you are in the system, it is actually measuring. So that is what is called in situ. And in this category, we have the rain gauges. So they are actually the point measurements. And then we have the remote sensing measurements. So remote sensing, that is the simplest example of remote sensing is eye, which is just looking at something and our mind is interpreting. So basically in remote sensing, we have the radar and the satellites. So two types of satellites are in operation. One is what is called the geostationary satellite, which are at a distance of about 36,000 kilometers. And another category of satellites are polar orbiting satellites, which orbit around the Earth at around 800 to 1,000 kilometers. And they have a period of about 2 hours. The geostationary satellites appear to be stationary for an observer on the Earth. The precipitation observations over the country has a fairly good coverage of rain gauges. As I said, the point measurements, there are lots of rain gauges distributed over the country, but still they are inadequate because these are point measurements, and we have seen that the rain is highly variable in space and time. But automatic rain gauge measurements are inadequate. Automatic means that which measures continuously. But normal rain gauges that are, most of the rain gauges that are there in the country are measuring rainfall for 24 hours, and then it is cleared out. So the rainfall of 24 hours is measured. So the automatic rain gauge measures continuously. So the importance of the satellite and radar rainfall estimates are most important. And in this category, so we are trying to examine here how far the satellite observations have proved useful, and how are they comparing with the conventional rain gauge observations. This is the issue that we are addressing today. The deficiency of the satellite rainfall is that we have the tools, but the products are not of required accuracy and scale. And so we need to optimize the resources to get the best products. So the limitations of the remote sensing techniques, that is the radar and the satellite, we will be covering mostly the satellite aspects here. And towards the end, we will try to see the limitations of radar. The limitations of remote sensing techniques are these estimate the parameters based on measuring the electromagnetic radiances or reflectance that is coming out from the body. So it doesn't measure actually, because in an in situ measurement, you actually measure the parameter like temperature, humidity, etc. Here you measure the electromagnetic radiation that is emanating from the body, and you try to interpret in term by using some modeling techniques, modeling of physical interactive processes between the atmosphere and the radiation. So it is an indirect measurement. So it is not a direct measurement. So that is the difference between the remote sensing measurement and the in situ measurement. And another thing is the scales are vastly different. The in situ measurements are point measurements, whereas the remote sensing measurement from satellites are of the scale of about a few kilometers. So you have to measure something which is a point measurement and which is a few kilometers scale. So as we have seen, rainfall is highly variable in space and time. So particularly for this parameter, the importance of the scales are coming into picture. Okay. The rain gauges, that is the 24-hour rain gauges, and the automatic weather stations. Automatic weather stations have many other observations also taken, which have rain gauge also, and recording rain gauges, which are of course not so much in number in the country. But altogether, the total number of rain gauges in the country is of the order of about 10,000, which appears to be quite sufficient. But considering that the precipitation is a very highly variable in space and time, this number is still inadequate. And in the remote sensing category, we have the Doppler radars. There are about 30 Doppler radars in the country, and almost well distributed. And they have a range of about 200 to 300 kilometers. So they can see the weather patterns around in the range of about 200 to 300 kilometers. And then, as I said, the geostationary satellites, which are at a height of about 36,000 kilometers, and their speed of rotation around the Earth is same as the rotational Earth. So they appear to be stationary. So they are equipped with the infrared sensors, that is infrared in the 10 to 12 micron region, and they have high resolution of the order of about a kilometer. But IR, the infrared sees only the top of the cloud. So it doesn't penetrate the cloud. So you don't know. You have to interpret in terms of saying that if the IR temperatures are very low, that means that the cloud is very high. So you will interpret that it is a high cloud, it is a thick cloud, so it will precipitate more. So it's such an empirical algorithm that has to be developed, that has been developed over the years. And then you have orbiting multi-channel passive microwave radiometers. The microwaves are able to penetrate through the clouds to a certain extent. Various channels are able to penetrate to various levels, and they interact with the droplets. So what you measure, the electromagnetic radiation emanating from this water particles, are more or less a direct measurement of the rainfall that is taking place. So in this category, you had the most important micro radiometer that went on board was the tropical rainfall measuring mission that was flown in 1997. And now what is operating, the later version of this, that is the better version of this, is the global precipitation mission, which has a 2 frequency radar besides the 12-channel microwave imager. So, but these imagers have poorer vertical resolution of the order of 10 kilometers compared to the geostationary satellite IR, which has a resolution of 1 kilometer. So this just shows the ground-based network of in situ, that is the rain gauge network. So you can see that there are three places over India, A, B, and C, that are which have a very dense network of rain gauges. However, in these places, that is in the western region, etc., it is much less. So, and then what is done is, that is through an objective analysis system in the last 15-20 years, the past data, all past data have been clubbed together and they have been made in a gridded form. So instead of looking at the data in as a point source, now we have got the gridded data, and these are available as daily rainfall in this small, that is 0.25 by 0.25 degree grid. These data are available. So comparison becomes easier between one source, that is the ground source, and the satellite observations. So as can be very easily realized, these are called the ground truth because this is the actual measurement. So when you try to compare with satellite, you should see that how far the satellite observations are matching with them. Then only you will have the reliability of the satellite observations. So this is showing the radar network over the country. So there are about 30 radars, and particularly these radars are placed over the coastal regions because of the, as you all know, that is the cyclone season and the weather system that are coming from the ocean. They have to be observed from satellites. And then when they come near the coast, about 200 to 300 kilometers, they are more intensely observed by the radars. So there is a fairly good network of radars. And then here I have just shown the homogeneous regions of India. Although the total rainfall of India is one of the measures by which we evaluate the monsoon performance, still for many physical reasons, the country has been divided into 5 homogeneous zones where the rainfall type and the amount are nearly similar. Of course, we will not be talking much about this. And now the most important thing about the southwest monsoon, that is, which is between June and September, there are 122 days. The major characteristics, 3 major characteristics of this system are there. That is, one is how the rainfall is varying from day to day. What we are considering is the total rainfall over the whole country. That is the grid that I had shown earlier, that this grid, we sum up over all the grids, that is area average, and over the 122 days, we try to average and try to produce a product. And so here, for each day, the all India average is taken. So this is showing the daily variation of rainfall, and the black curve that shows is what is called the climatology. That is, over the last 120 years, we have got the data. And so those have been averaged, and this shows the average pattern. And then the 2 other curves, those are for 1994, which was a good monsoon year, and 2002, which was a bad monsoon year, just to show a representation of how the daily oscillations are taking place. But if you average over the whole 120 years, the smooth pattern is emerging. June, less rainfall, and then September, less rainfall. July, August, you have got maximum rainfall. So this is one aspect. The second aspect is the spatial distribution. You have in the western part of the country very less rainfall, Rajasthan and Gujarat and those places. And then over the mountainous regions, Western Ghats, and then you in the eastern part of the country, you have a high rainfall. So this is the second aspect. The third and most important aspect is what is called the interannual variation of monsoon rainfall. That is for 100, here it is shown for 115, but now it is available for 120 years. And here what I have shown is the rainfall departure. So 120 years of mean has been taken. That mean is about 87 centimeters. That is over the whole country and for all 122 days. So that is the weighted average, area weighted average over 122 days for the whole country, which is about 87 centimeters. And then the spread, that is the sigma of that, is about 8.5. So that means that most of the years will be falling within this region, within this limit. So here I have shown the departure from the normal, departure from the long period average. That is, the every year how much the rainfall has been away from the long period average, that is 87 centimeter. So all the years which are above this 10% mark, they are all called the excess years, and these are called the poor monsoon years. So what is within plus minus is called normal. So that criterion has been adopted. And so there are, in the last 150 years, poor monsoon years have been about 22 and excess monsoon years have been 20. So, well, I will just skip this one because of want of time. And so again, coming back to the satellite estimate of rainfall, the Indian scenario, how it all started, it was a coincidence, I would say, that in 1979, there was a major experiment that was planned, a global experiment, of which monsoon was a part, which was called the MONEX experiment in 1979. During that time, the geostationary satellite from USA was shifted over the Indian Ocean region for observing the winds over the observing the atmospheric winds over this region. But we utilized it for measuring the rainfall by a technique that was developed by Martin et al. In the University of Wisconsin. And then at that time, a radar was being developed and installed at Chennai. So we took advantage of this, and 3 days of rainfall were measured from the recorded from the satellite, and also the rainfall observations from the radar were taken, and also the rain gauges observations were also analyzed. So that was the first attempt over India to study the rainfall from satellites. And then, of course, there have been various attempts, INSAT 2B, D, INSAT 3D, 3DR, these are all, and also Kalpana. These are all the present satellites that have been working since about which produce the IR images, infrared images, and from this regularly, operationally, the rainfall products are being made. And then during 1999, that was the first attempt by India to send a microwave multi-satellite, multi-channel microwave radiometer was flown in 1919, which worked for 2 years and produced very important data over the oceans and also related with rainfall. Subsequently, as a part of that, there was a proposal to there was a proposal, and in fact, it was realized also that Megatropics, that is the Indo-French satellite, which was to have a rainfall radiometer, but unfortunately that was called Madras, that worked only for about 8 to 10 months and did not produce much data. So that was a part of the global precipitation mission. In fact, all the countries had decided together to put various satellites from their own resources, and then India's contribution was Megatropics, and unfortunately it worked only for 10 days. Now in this GPM configuration, that is Global Precipitation Mission configuration, there are about 10 to 12 satellites, microwave satellites, because microwave measures directly rain. So directly it sees the rainfall. These 10 to 12 satellites data are taken into account to configure a full rainfall map over the globe, day in and day, every 24 hours, every hour or every half hour. So I think this, yes, what I wanted to say is during the MONEX, there were so many experiments planned, but there was no focus on precipitation. Subsequently also, there were so many missions, so many experiments that were planned in India by various groups, but there was no focus on rainfall. But any of these things, there were some 10 experiments, 10 major international or national experiments from starting from 1964 and right up to 2005, etc. But the focus has never been on rainfall. So what we are trying to say is there is an urgent need that there has to be a mission, there has to be a program in a mission mode to conduct rainfall observations and to validate it properly with the various resources. Well, I just again skip this one. So this is the GPM constellation status. So there are so many satellites that are there, microwave, basically microwave related. And this is the presently, this is the main one, which is called the GPM Core Observatory. Besides the passive microwave radiometers, it has two radars also, which directly measure the rain. And then we have in this system the megatropics, which unfortunately failed. But of course, two of its instruments. One is called the radiometer, the water vapor column radiometer, and the radiation budget instrument. These two are working, but the rainfall equipment did not work. So in the microwave era, which nearly started from 1980s for the rainfall, we had one of the first satellite was 1978 Nimbus. This was launched for the Piggy experiment that I was talking about for 1917, but it worked only for 1 month, only 30 days data, but some 500 very classic papers have been produced by this. It is a great satellite, and it set the trend for the future rainfall measuring microwave observations. Then TRMM, that is Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission, this was supposed to be working only for 3 years, 1997 launched, and then, but it worked for 16 long years. And then that was a great feat. And then the OceanSat-1, as I said, Indian satellite, then Megatropics, which worked only for 10. And now the GPM core is working. And besides it, there are a lot of other satellites which are operational satellites, besides rainfall for various other parameters also they are providing. And just to give a sort of a comparison of what happens, what is being actually measured by satellite, and then the global precipitation mission products data, they are available at 1 degree grid and 0.1 degree grid for the whole globe. These are available. So we have made some comparisons with the Indian IMD gridded products, and you can see how good, how bad it is. And so this is in a very, very poor state. At 1 degree by 1 degree scale, we try to make the comparisons, all India comparison between the satellite and the ground rain gauges. So these are so much off. And then these are at, if you increase the spatial scale, whether there is any better comparison, that certainly there is a slightly better comparison. So what it says is that if you increase the area, then the correlation is likely to improve. So in summing up the status on all India daily scale, that is not at any particular time or anything, on a daily scale, that is 24-hour cumulative, the peaks and troughs match to a very great extent. On higher spatial and temporal scale, only qualitative match is there. So we can say that probably at comparison between the ground observations and satellite can be probably at 5 degree by 5 degree scale, the match is reasonable. So these are two diagrams showing the comparison this is for 1 year, this is for 2016. Various techniques have been compared here. And then, as you can see, the IMD data, which is the truth, that is the red one, which is so low, and INSAT is very high, and then the GPM is also somewhere in between. So there are a lot of mismatches, but what we can say is probably at the level of peaks and troughs, the match is reasonable. So this is all at the level of 24-hour cumulative rainfall. So here is our result, one result, which is shown for 4 years average. That is, one is 4 years average climatology, and another is the GPM product, that is this one, and the other one is the IMD, that is the ground reality. So again, we can see that there is so much mismatch between these two things. So this naturally calls for a re-look at the whole thing of comparison between the two sources. So this is just showing the various satellites which are having microwave radiometers on board and which are providing the data. So we have about 10 to 12 satellites which are providing almost continuous data, but these are satellites which are in the low orbit. So they provide basically instantaneous data, not a continuous data. So what is done is, that is, from this, you morph these data and try to produce a product. But morphing is okay when the products are more smooth. But as we have seen, rainfall is not one of the very smooth products which varies in space and time. So present status is, though products are available on all scales, that is, even half an hour products are available, rainfall products are available, and at very close intervals, that is at 0.1 degree grid, etc., the uncertainty is very large. Microwave or direct measurements, nearly 10 microwave orbiting satellites are there. They provide instantaneous measurements during satellite pass time. So just when the satellite passes, then it provides the data. Not so. What has been used is the Kalman filter, morphed techniques have been used to provide the smooth transition from one area to another area for producing the global products. But errors seem to be quite significant over India, these morphed products. So for understanding the limitations over Indian landmass, intense coordinated comparisons with the radar, satellite, and rain gauge clusters at various spatio-temporal scales are needed. So critical validation sites have to be established with the dense network of rain gauges. So the basic critical need is, in fact, the radar rainfall, not just reflectance images. So what is happening in today's situation is, although there are 30 radars are there distributed over the country, but they are being used only to image and being used for weather forecasts. They are not converted to rain. So there is for converting it to rains, you have to establish what is called a ZR relationship. Z is the reflectivity that is observed by the radar, and R is the rainfall. So this has to be done very systematically to establish a ZR relationship. So, however, there was a very intense rainfall event over Chennai on 15th November and 30th December, 15th November and 30th November. So these were compared. So these radar data were compared by us for radar rainfall, the ground rainfall, INSAT rainfall, and the GPM rainfall. All were compared, and then you can see the thorough mismatch that is existing in various situations. Only the radar rainfall and the ground rainfall measured by the India Meteorological Department seem to have some correspondence at the daily scale. So what we need to do is derive a dynamic ZR relationship, that is reflectivity rainfall relationship, for the DWRs from the IMERG data, that is using the GPM rainfall data, which itself is not very reliable, but to a certain extent we can rely on that for getting this ZR relationship. So this is a block diagram showing how we can go about it. And then these are the rainfall products that are available from various sources, and they have to be appropriately combined, and a proper product should be derived. So we are proposing that, in summary, we are proposing an integrated monsoon rainfall observation program that is with 6 to 8 months of concurrent observations, products from INSAT, the Doppler weather radars, the GPM constellation of satellites, plus observations over oceans, and establishing super sites for validation, that is with a lot of rain gauges. And the key requirements here is operational rainfall products every 10 minutes from the 3 DWRs. Now nothing is being got from this. So this is a very key parameter that has to be obtained, and now being used only for studying reflectivity maps. So we need to convert all of them into rainfall maps, and then only the situation is likely to improve over the country. And also over the tropics, and particularly over the monsoon region, improving the morphing algorithm that is existing in NASA. So we need to do it better over our country because of the tropical rainfall and the monsoon rainfall. So with that, I conclude and wish very good rainfall in 2020-21 also, as we had in 2019 and 2020. Thank you.